How often do you think about the Oscars? About how many Oscar winning films there are and how many you've seen? Yeah, there's a few famous Oscar winning films that we've all seen, The Godfather and Lord of the Rings and Titanic, I'm King of the World, all that stuff. But the Oscars have been running since 1927. There are currently over 1,000 films, feature length films, which have won an Oscar. How many have you seen? I did the numbers for myself. It's not many, and I consider myself quite a movie buff. So here then is the premise of this podcast. Every episode, I and a rotating cast of two guests will randomly select one of the 1,000 films that have won an Oscar, watch it, and talk about it, with the only requirement being that one of the three people on each episode has to have never seen the movie before we talk about it. That will get difficult with Star Wars. Please note that our coverage of a movie does not constitute an endorsement of it. My least favorite movie of 2016, David Ayer's Suicide Squad, won an Oscar for Best Makeup, while my favorite movie of 2016, The Handmaiden, wasn't even nominated for anything. Please also note that our coverage of a movie is not a blanket endorsement of any or all of the people involved in it. A lot of terrible people have won Oscars. Kevin Spacey won an Oscar 20 years before he was outed as an abuser, and Roman Polanski won one 20 years after. But every film, good, bad, or in many cases mediocre, that has won an Oscar is an important part of film history just for being there. And they all, on some level, deserve a tiny bit of consideration, even if that consideration ends up concluding that it's garbage. With all of that in mind, I am your host, as always, Ellie McConaughey, and with me this time, once again, is Jasmine Garcia.
Well, this is a deeply unsatisfactory situation.
And my longtime friend Todd is also joining us.
Hui hui.
And we are here today to talk about A Separation, the Iranian film which won Best Foreign Language Film at the 84th Academy Award, was also nominated for Best Original Screenplay, and for reasons that baffle me, absolutely nothing else.
I'm not that shocked just because the Academy has always had a really hit and miss record with international film.
Yeah.
They really do. I said this a couple years ago. I'm really glad that Parasite won Best Picture and Director, but where was Song Kang Ho? Where was Park Yu Rim for Drive My Car? Where are the actors?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we finally got some of that with Anatomy of a Fall, but that only took them how many years?
I literally have in my notes for the conversation at the dinner table. It is a fucking crime Leila Hatimi wasn't nominated for Best Actress for this movie.
Yeah, no.
Oof.
Also, just a quick aside to our audience. None of us are Iranian. None of us speak Farsi. I'm probably going to mispronounce 90% of these names. I'm sorry. I will do my best.
Same proviso.
I wasn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't the language actually? Let me double check something actually before I say anything that's gonna make me stupid.
They talk about both Farsi and Arabic at one point, but I think, what language was it? Let me see. It might have it listed.
I'm 99% sure it was Persian.
Yeah, I had the Wikipedia page pulled up just to make sure I had all the names in order. It's Persian.
Persian? Okay, well, I don't speak Persian either, or Arabic. I don't speak any of these languages.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry. I try. I speak a little sign language. Sign a little sign language.
If I try to speak this, it will cause an international incident, so let's just not.
No.
Yeah, I try to describe this movie. I always come down to it's about an Iranian couple getting a divorce, but really that's barely the inciting incident.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's very much it's the inciting incident to a degree because none of the other dominoes would have fallen without it.
Yeah.
And in fact, that is a major point of contention between the couple.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's like everything happens to these people and it's all bad.
Like, about the most you could say as far as how that plays into is, it's with regards to how the daughter sees this, where for a good chunk of the movie, she's like, maybe you can still work this out, and then by the end, she's realizing, I was wrong, there's no saving this marriage. Mom, Dad, do what you gotta do.
Oh no, that's the thing. It's not mom, dad, do what you gotta do. It's now she's gotta choose, and that's such an impossible choice. And the fucking movie, yeah, we don't know.
I like the fact we don't know who she picks. Like, if anything, it's the fact that she has accepted this enough to be like, I have to make this choice. That is ending enough.
Oof.
I also I pointed this out in my notes. Like the first shot of the film is a two shot of Simin and Nader, but they're talking to a judge.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess they are, and they're, because of the way the camera's framed, they're sitting like shoulder to shoulder basically. They're talking about getting their divorce, and then the final shot of the movie is them also in a two shot, as physically far apart as they can be in the same frame, with like multiple visual barriers between them. Like, oh, there's the entire fucking movie right there.
I mean, yeah, because the cruel irony is it's not like she petitioned for a divorce because she didn't want to stay with him.
Mm-hmm.
It was because she wanted to leave the country and he felt like he couldn't.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a little too glib for the subject matter, but this is the future conservatives want.
Well, it's also worth pointing out they are officially getting their divorce there. The daughter is deciding at the end where she's going to go with their spoilers in this.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
In this podcast. I'm telling the audience like we spoil these movies all the time. Just live with it.
With a title like this, you sort of all have a good sense of at least part of where this is going.
Yeah.
But also, what kind of went over, I feel, a lot of people's heads when they first saw the movie, which actually went over my head the first time I saw it until a girl I was seeing explained it to me. They're wearing mourning clothes in the final shot.
Yeah.
The father's dead.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So like the whole reason that they were separating in the first place is that's over, but by this point we have gone from
The divides have been exacerbated.
the divides have been exacerbated. We have gone from Simon saying that no, Nader's a good man. I'm not trying to divorce him because he treats me badly. It's just we want different things right now. To this whole situation just brought out the absolute worst in everyone involved.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of describing this film's genre is really hard. I think the closest I have ever come is it's a courtroom drama,
Kinda, yeah.
because most of it is built around the question of whether Nader pushed Raja down the stairs and caused her to have a miscarriage, which in Iran could be considered like murder, and in some states could be considered like murder here, but
Yeah.
And what struck me every step of the way is every time Nader tries to get out of the he thinks he's not responsible. That's his main thing. I didn't actually do this. It doesn't matter what everyone says. I'm not going to take the easy way out that says that I did this. And the real irony of it is I feel like by trying that hard to stick to his guns, he spends the whole time trying to keep his relationship with trying to keep his daughter in his orbit, and by the end he's completely blown up his relationship with her.
Yeah, like many men before him, he put his pride and ego over what was probably the best solution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
it's because it's just like listen, dude, whether you meant to or not, you did it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, even if you want to go the whole question of was he really what caused it, the fact is you still push her. That's not gonna go well for you.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting to me how quickly it stops being about whether he is morally responsible, which is literally all that Hojat keeps insisting, and starts being whether he's technically responsible. And to be clear, I don't have a super lot of sympathy for Raja. She did tie an old man with Alzheimer's to his bed.
Again, this whole situation brought out the absolute worst in everybody.
Yeah, it's like Terame is pretty much the only person who kind of comes out with their hands clean. And to be fair, she's a child, so
The two kids, there's this great shot halfway through the movie. I think I noted someplace in my notes. I had real trouble taking notes because part of it's just foreign films are always hard to take notes on because
yeah.
you can't really look away from the screen super often. But also because I want to watch the fucking movie. There's a really great shot halfway through the movie of Teme and I don't remember the name of Raja. Samaya? Yeah, Samaya.
Yeah.
The daughter, they're being one of them is being read to by her tutor, and the other one sort of mouthing along with it. and it's like this really, really like I think it's one of the few times the movie kind of like draws attention to like, man, these two poor kids are completely caught in the middle on it. Man, it kept striking me whenever
Mhm.
Hojat, who is Raj's husband, audience, who's complete piece of shit to be clear.
Yeah, he has massive
Oh,
anger issues. It's not great.
Every so often he'd go to threaten Simon or Nader, and he'd keep insisting like, I have nothing to lose, I have nothing to lose. I'm like, you have a daughter, dude, a living one right there.
That is true. And I mean, Temra too. He like tried to threaten her too, and it's like, dude,
Hmm.
what are you trying to do? Child for a child? Jesus.
this podcast was my first time watching this movie, and during like his first confrontation nighter at the hospital, I was kind of clenched up, like, oh god, this is gonna end badly, isn't it?
And it did.
I mean, I was braced for so much rope even it's like it says something about the expectation of like, oh thank god, this is just as bad as it got.
Hmm. That's like one of the things that like strikes me about it, and I've made this point on a few occasions. Like the Academy really likes the most acting, not necessarily the best acting, and that this is not really a movie about the most acting, about the most extreme consequences, about, it's just about people making kind of bad choices, and those kind of bad choices making other people make kind of bad choices, and just keep snowballing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just,
that's
and really, it's all of this could have been avoided with no fault divorce and decent fucking health care for the elderly.
Mm.
Ugh.
There's this great quote from Persepolis, which is a movie that is not qualified for this podcast
Life's not fair.
because life's not fair. And I don't remember the quote exactly, but like it basically boils down to like, as much as Iranians and Americans sort of like see themselves as completely different, we're actually way more similar than we think we are, and our governments are much the same.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
It's so it's so weird. I will say we're recording this on October 10th. Shit in the Middle East right now is not super great. I think that's the best way I can phrase it.
Most polite in any case.
Hmm. And it's like, I don't know, like I love, one of the reasons I love this movie is that people of Middle Eastern descent, Muslims in specific, are so casually dehumanized in American media. Man, it's really nice to see movies that are made by them and therefore don't fucking do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Like, again, as much as this is a movie about a horrendous situation that is making people behave horrendously, there is still so much empathy for basically everybody involved.
Hmm.
Like, even I would argue Naja's husband, like, yeah, he is an awful person, but you get the sense that it's born out of frustration from basically his lot in life. Like, there's a lot of like class commentary in this, along with gender commentary.
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
There's this like recurring bit where basically like anytime anyone takes not Nader's side over Hojat's, he basically starts accusing them of classism, and it's like, on the one hand, 99% of the time he is absolutely being the unreasonable one. He is absolutely being the one shouting at a judge, or, you know threatening someone at a school. He's usually in the wrong, but there's also just like this sense from the way he talks about it, like this is how he's been talked to his entire life.
Actually, as far as Hojak goes, there was one detail which it kind of caught me midway through. I'll give credit where it's due. Liz first pointed out the specific wording here, and it has stuck with me as far as his situation and how he reacts to it. When they discuss his unemployment, it is never he was laid off. It is very explicitly he was fired, and there's that unspoken question of was his personality a big part of why he got fired?
Hmm. I mean, his wife claims that he's gotten worse. He got bad after he got fired, but also like what struck me about both the character as she's written and the actress's performance is that she is very clearly a person who is like used to making excuses for him.
I mean, that's a big part of how it gets as bad as it does. Is she really kind of tried to downplay how things were at home for that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's a moment in there, and it goes by pretty fast, so I don't know if it matters. If it's like it's not something the movie's fixated on in the way that the other movie mentioned. They mentioned very briefly that one of Hojat's creditors took him to prison, and she basically had to like go and beg to get him let out. And the first time I saw this movie, I remember this distinctly. I had actually assumed she had robbed the family and she had gone when she tied the grandfather to the bed. She had gone to go pay him to go let him out. It turns out she'd gone to the doctor because she was already having a miscarriage at that point.
Yeah.
But like, it reminded me a lot of that bit in Parasite where they mention that the husband of the maid is hiding where he is because of his creditors
Yes.
seeking him out.
It's like if they find him, they'll kill him. That yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
And I can't wait to talk about Parasite on here someday.
Mhm.
Speaking of the Oscars, we're gonna briefly detour out of talking the movie because the movie's pretty heavy, y'all. I still got some more thoughts here. I wanted to talk about the 84th Academy Awards because man, was this a year at the Oscars. It's the year of the artist, which is a movie. You just look over like these winners. The Iron Lady,
Oh boy.
good shit there. The Help.
Oof.
Who's excited for Midnight in Paris?
I gotta be honest. You're reading these off, and I'm one part going, "Oh God, this was a rough slate," and also, "Oh God, it's been that many years. Everything hurts."
Yeah,
Yeah, that too.
Hugo's the big like good movie that it won all the technicals.
That makes sense.
Honestly, the nominees weren't very good either. Like you've got Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close in there.
The one time Max von Sydow gets an acting nomination, and it's for that.
The Descendants, I guess The Descendants wasn't terrible. Albert Nobbs, awful movie, awful movie.
Yeah.
This was the year of like The Tree of Life didn't win anything, and Drive didn't even get nominated for anything. So that was like what everyone was talking about this year. It's just like, man,
The best thing to come from Drive getting completely shafted was Albert Brooks' reaction to it.
yep.
Just his posting like, "I was robbed." No, really, someone came into my house and stole my shoes.
Albert Brooks is a great guy. No, but like, I don't know. I don't want to go too far into Drive because that's not what this
Yeah.
episode is about. But like, Drive's had such a weird afterlife as a movie. It actually reminds me a little bit of like I don't know Fight Club or The Big Lebowski in that like the worst dude you know says that's his favorite movie, which kind of taints it. But then you go and watch it, and I'm like, oh right, this is actually just a really good movie.
Yeah.
Is that unfair?
I don't know.
No, I'd say that's accurate. Add Starship Troopers to that pile too.
I haven't seen it, so I wouldn't know.
It's good. It's worth
Yeah.
seeing. If you know what, I'm gonna make the boldest fucking claim I can. Do you know what movie you do a triple feature with Drive with?
What?
Go on.
You do The Nice Guys, Drive, Barbie.
Yep. Just see. What about Crazy Stupid Love? We gotta get Crazy Stupid Love in there.
I have a comment here I'm going to hold my tongue on because it's going to relate to another Oscar movie. Just one of those. We're listing all these films off and just remembering, like, the one film where it's like, the one film I look at and go, the greatest trick it ever did was manage to suck all the charisma out of Ryan Gosling. But again, that's a talk for another day.
Ooh.
Are you talking La La Land?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll get
We
there.
don't have to talk about that. We don't have to talk about La La Land.
Again, that's a talk for another day.
The real double feature there is Drive and Barbie, i.e., the Ryan Gosling fails to pretend that he is human cinematic universe. I used to throw Blade Runner 2042 on that pile too. You should also throw The Nice Guys in because that movie just fucking rules and no one went to see it.
Hell yeah.
Honestly, Ryan Gosling is weirdly underrated in spite of the fact he is obviously a very successful actor. Does that make sense?
It does. He's funnier than he gets credit for.
Yeah. It's the curse of being really pretty but also really funny.
He got shunted into like lead roles as like the hero because he fucking looks like that.
Yeah.
And like I think Greta Gerwig was one of the like it was one of the first times most audiences had watched him and gone like, oh my god, this dude is hysterical.
Hmm.
They should have gone to see The Nice Guys and they watched him turn failing to open a bathroom door into the funniest thing you'd seen in your life.
Or again, Crazy Stupid Love. He was really funny in that.
I've not seen that.
It's solid from what I remember. I need to rewatch it.
Yeah, I don't. The end point, I guess, I was kind of circling around. Is I do not know what was happening at the Academy this year. I guess I can sort of like forgive Midnight in Paris because we'd all sort of like there was like this weird period where we'd all just sort of agreed like, yeah, we're just gonna let Woody Allen keep doing what he's doing.
They hadn't quite completely given up on him yet. That was like the last gasp.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know either. Rango won Best Animated Feature. That's a movie I haven't thought about. When did it come out? 13 years.
And speaking of last gasp, Gore Verbinski's kind of never quite recovered.
No, no, he did not. Or Johnny Depp.
That's complicated.
Brought it on himself.
So you know what? We're gonna circle back to something less depressing than Johnny Depp. So it was Separation.
I mean,
God.
accurate.
Unfortunately.
I actually, one of the things that sort of struck me, it's got the best original screenplay nomination, and I'm back on topic. Is it's got that, and like one of the things that struck me on rewatches is like, man, this script is really fucking good. Not just on like a written dialogue level, but on like a setup and payoff thing.
Yeah.
There's a beat in like the second or third scene, or second or third real scene, where Raja is like calling a religious leader to make sure it's not a sin for her to wipe down the old man she's there to care for.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just like such a brilliant setup for the end beat where like Nader's like, I will pay you the money if she can swear on this Quran that I'm the cause of her miscarriage, and then she can't.
And not to mention, like, because we don't realize that she was hit by a car until later on, but we do see what happened right before it. Like, we see the old man, like, trying to go across the street when he has no business doing that.
Yeah.
And just, everything happened to these people.
I'm just going to say, I was, without going into too much detail, I was getting some uncomfortable flashbacks of, I had a relative with dementia where that did turn into, there was a period of time where they were saying this, that did turn into one night of, okay, we're going to have to start locking the door at night.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
It's an awful thing to deal with. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough to not have to deal with it, but like I can't.
Fingers crossed you never have to.
Yeah, it sounds like among one of the worst things that could happen to a person.
Yeah, it was one of those low grade watch that scene going, oh, memories.
Yeah, it's not something I've like dealt with extensively, but I have had some like moments of it, and it's not the focus of the film, but like his slow collapse is like a recurring background beat. Like at the beginning of the film, he's walking a little bit, he can talk a little bit, but not like a lot.
Yeah.
And then by the last time we see him, he can't even like stand up anymore.
Yeah.
It's again like it's one of those things that sort of like the tragedy of it all is Simon is here trying to get a divorce because her husband doesn't want to emigrate with her because he doesn't want to leave his father there, and that is understand like I don't agree with him, but I understand that impulse.
Yeah. And she shouldn't have to separate from her husband at all in order to seek a better life for her daughter.
Hmm. But like if they just like stuck it out for a month, I mean, she has the 40-day countdown, but also like again, they just couldn't be. They were just both so unwilling to bend.
Yeah.
It also, I will say, as much as I like feministy Hollywood films, man, they can be kind of cringe sometimes, right? You know what I mean?
They like yes, some anvils need to be dropped, but not always.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot more subtle about it. I do agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can absolutely this is a feminist piece 100%
Absolutely.
because again if she was able to move freely none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
I also my end point there was like also feminist movies about minorities, about people or other kinds of minorities, can often be like someday is the kids are all right fucking eligible for this podcast. That's another movie I can't fucking stand.
I think it might be.
Oh, can't remember on that one.
That's the one with Annette Bening and Julianne Moore as a lesbian couple, and
It is.
their kids, Josh Hutcherson and Mina Wasikowska, find their sperm donor father, Mark Ruffalo.
Yep.
And at one point, Julianne Moore sleeps with Mark Ruffalo because that's great movie.
Yeah, that's the one. I don't remember. I don't think it won anything. No.
Okay. Does not look. Okay, it was nominated. Does not look like it won anything.
Okay, then I can take my issue. Like it's one of those movies that sort of like doesn't really engage with the actual elements of its story, but also like keeps like insisting that it is, if that makes sense. Whereas this film doesn't really draw any attention to its to its like they keep asking her like why don't you want to live in Iran, and she never actually says it, but there's all these like moments where she sort of like gives them a look and like, are you seeing this shit, man?
Yeah, like I feel like the only people who are really able to seriously ask that are people who aren't paying attention. It's just like a lot of this would not be happening if we were in a place that was safer and
Mm-hmm.
just a better place for our daughter to live her life in, get her education.
Mm-hmm. It also did strike me that when we, the audience, and therefore the characters in it, finally figure out what like that Raja was hit by a car, is the first scene that Simon and Raja have where neither of their husbands are present.
Gee, I wonder why.
Ooh, yeah, that's.
Man, this movie's exhausting.
And like I really do need to give a shout out to Terme. In a If she were in a better environment, she could have her own girl detective series. Like she was reading these adults in her life for filth at every step of the way. And it's like she can see right through whatever facades they have, and still she wants so desperately to keep her family together. And
Mm-hmm.
even if deep down she knows that she probably isn't going to be able to.
I know I said this in the chat before. I'm going to repeat this. Her storyline was the one where I came out of this movie going, this can make a killer double feature with Anatomy of a Fall. Two movies about children realizing their parents are incredibly messy and incredibly human.
I have this note in my notes that like on multiple occasions Nader basically puts am I gonna back down off this on her shoulders, on Termez's shoulders, which is an incredibly unfair thing to do to an 11-year-old girl.
Yeah, it's like she is acting more mature than basically every adult around her.
And B, what struck me the third time it happened, she keeps backing down off it because I think she knows he's lying. He's just like, if she says, okay, I want you to back down, he's not going to do it. So she's not doing that to him. And it just like, there's this great cut where like she goes to the judge and like lies through her teeth to protect her father. And they cut to him driving, to him shot from the back seat driving out of the parking lot, and he sort of like half turns into the rearview mirror, and they cut back to her just crying in the backseat, like, "Oh, this fucking situation sucks." Ugh.
They just put so much on her. And it's so ironic because both of them feel like they are doing what is best for their child. And it's like, clearly not, but you can understand where both of them are coming from. Again, as horrendous as almost every character in this movie behaves, you do understand where they're all coming from. And that just makes it all the more difficult. Like a big part of this movie is just about a kid learning way too young, oh, my parents are human beings
Yeah.
and don't actually know what the fuck they're doing.
Mhm.
Half the reason it works so well as it does is because they are, again, they're all very flawed, but they're very human as opposed to just being these. You can see the lesser versions where everybody's just a really awful archetype.
You can see the American version of this. Ugh.
Oh.
I was about to say that exactly, like where Raja is like really Catholic or something, and like I do think it's incredibly easy to make, especially in this situation, and especially with Iran's laws about women being what they are. It would be incredibly easy to make Nader into like just a very one note awful character. It would be even easier to make Hojat into that.
Hell, he had that one line about how, "Why do you think that we beat our wives and children like animals?" And it's just like, that's not the problem. That's not the problem.
Yeah, but you're right. It would make a really good double feature with Anatomy of Fall. The other movie that I was thinking of, speaking of movies with terrible American remakes, made me think of Force Majeure. If anyone's ever seen that,
No.
It's been years. But, also, God damn you for reminding me that got remade.
didn't it? Jazz and audience, the movie about a couple and their kids who are out at a ski resort
Mhm.
and they see a controlled avalanche. You know, it's safe. But during the controlled avalanche, the father panics and abandons them.
Oh, I heard about this. Yeah. They did remake that. I heard about the American version.
They did, and it's an incredible movie of just like watching this family figure out the father isn't who they think he is. And it's like those movies are always kind of, they're rough. I don't know, this movie hit me very very hard in
Mhm.
in 2011 because it's like around the time I was 21 at that point, and that's around the time you start to like you start to come to terms with a lot of like the ways in which your parents weren't perfect.
Mhm. It's around the time where again you realize, "Oh, wait a minute. My parents were just human beings." Like around that time I was realizing, "Oh, this is around the age my mother had me.
Mm.
What the fuck?" Like there's no handbook. There's no handbook and no one really knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Man, this episode's really heavy, y'all.
This shit's really sad.
I mean, like I will admit, like when I rolled this one up, there was a part of me that's like, man, this is gonna like the way I choose movies, I use an RNG to generate four options,
Mhm.
so I can like I don't end up getting stuck with a movie I really don't feel like talking about at that moment.
That's fair.
And I rolled this one up, and I was like, I don't remember what else I got, but I was just sitting there looking at it, like, I'm really excited to share this movie with more people. Like half the point of having someone who it's their first time through is that like say what you will about the Oscars, some of these movies are really good, and I really want more people to have seen this movie.
No, this is a fantastic movie.
Oh, yeah.
I just never want to watch it again.
I stand by what I said when I first threw my hat in. As far as the Oscars go, Best International Features, I've been a blind spot, and I'm glad this is one of the ones that kind of helped open the door for me a bit more on that.
And yeah, that's the other thing. It is a really heavy movie, and I did sort of like instinctively know it's going to be tough to talk about. Best international feature is usually like if you go and look over that, especially in recent years, that's usually where you're gonna get your good stuff. Caveat, audience, my opinion is that you go look at the Rotten Tomatoes. The best spot for a movie to be in Rotten Tomatoes is low audience, high critic. Take that how you will.
Oh, yeah.
That is Ellie's sweet spot.
But no, like the last few years, you got like the Zone of Interest, you got Drive My Car, you got Another Round. That's a great movie.
It will never be on the show, but I'll always remind people last year France wanted to submit Titan for their best international feature.
Todd, yes, I love Titan. And yet in 2016, South Korea didn't want to submit The Handmaiden. What a waste. What else we got in here? Amour, that's another great movie, but also like, ah,
Oh, God, what else? The Lives of Others.
mm-hmm. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But in just case you're wondering, if they're always good, we do have Life is Beautiful in 1998.
Oh, God, also, like, that was one of those other rare years that they got a Best Actor spot, leading to probably one of those more infamous winning moments.
I have some extremely big problems with Life is Beautiful that one day I will talk about on this show. Oh, Cinema Paradiso, there we are.
I don't know if I'll be on for the episode, so I'm just going to get this out of the way now. I've always had this internal head theory that the night that on Best Actor, Jerry Lewis was watching somewhere and just if he had a glass in his hand, he just squeezed it till it shattered and just had that son of a bitch.
Look, Jerry, You want to finally release that movie so we can all see it? Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. I want to see it. Come on, Jerry. Come on, Jerry.
Well, I mean, hasn't the timer run out finally?
I think it's getting there. Is he still? He's dead, right?
Oh yeah, no. He famously it was never officially stated, but the general thing was at the time was you can't release it for like 10 more years, which people kind of took as you can't watch this till after I'm dead.
It's before June 2024. According to Lewis's son, there's no complete. This is the day the clown cried, audience, that we're talking about. It's a movie that is a pretty constant fixation for myself and Todd. According to Lewis's son, there's no complete negative of the film, and outstanding copyright issues have prevented its release. Bummer. Look up this movie if you ever want to
It's like one of the legends of lost cinema.
I don't hesitate, I don't know, lose all the respect you had for Jerry Lewis from The King of Comedy.
Well, considering his role in King of Comedy is playing an absolute bastard, it kind of works.
True.
This is fascinating. I know nothing.
We are so far off topic.
But and I can't say I blame us because again, yeah, this movie is incredibly heavy. It's great. It's
Oh yeah, definitely watch it. Just you might want to chase her after.
yeah, watch something fun afterwards.
I made this point where I mentioned Parasite a little bit ago, and that's a good movie to reference because that's a great movie, and unlike a lot of foreign films, that is a foreign film that a lot of people have seen. It made the jump. That and the weirdly, I found that a lot of people have seen Another Round. I think it's just Hannibal fangirls. Positive, positive.
It is also a genuinely good movie, though. Yeah.
Oh, it's great. I'm excited to finally talk about it someday. But the thing that the thing about Parasite is you hear that it's this incredibly heavy movie with a lot of complicated thoughts on classism and poverty and how capitalism has people in the underclasses sort of scrabbling over each other, and it is all of those things. It has those heavy thoughts, but then you actually watch the thing and it's funny, it's exciting, it's really entertaining all throughout. There's at least a couple of moments when I first saw it where I was just absolutely on the edge of my seat. People who've seen it know what I'm talking about when I say the tracking shot down the stairs.
That ending has at least one or two jaw drop holy crap moments.
And a separation is not boring, it is enthralling. I had trouble taking notes because I could not stop watching, but at the end it's not exciting in the way that movie is. It's not funny. By the end you mostly just feel sick and sad and tired, and that's the emotion it's going for. But man,
yeah, it succeeds in exactly what it wants to do. It's just what it wants to do is break your heart.
mm-hmm,
This is a brilliant movie.
mm-hmm.
I'm very glad that I saw it, but I probably will never watch it again.
It is, and it was also one of the it's one of those movies that gets named a bunch as people's favorite, supposedly. And I don't know this for real, but on the other hand, I don't know why I won't have any reason to lie about that. Supposedly Steven Spielberg said that he thought it was the best movie of the year, and Steven Spielberg had a movie out that year. Steven Spielberg had, I think it was War Horse out that year.
Yeah, it was War Horse.
Oh god.
Is War Horse eligible for this?
And now I've got the Conan O'Brien song stuck in my head. Thanks a lot.
See, I'm more thinking the Father Ted joke, but that works too.
Man, how they Ted this Bound of Ted's another thing that makes me depressed now. To be
Yeah.
clear, audience, none of this is me saying that you shouldn't see the movie. My favorite movie of the year, and the movie I won't shut the fuck up about, I'm sure I'm getting really annoying about it, is a movie where I came out of it and I had a date 2 hours later, and I then had to go find a bathroom someplace in Manhattan because I'd fucking wrecked my makeup sobbing the entire last 20 minutes. So
it is good.
It's a great goddamn movie.
It is good to let the art challenge you.
Yeah.
War Horse is not eligible for this podcast, so I can just throw my thoughts out about it now. Man, what the fuck is that movie? What the fuck are you doing, Steven?
There was a few years there he was just kind of in cruise control.
God damn it, Steven. I love you, but don't ever especially after Ready Player One, don't ever fucking scare me again like that, Steven.
Oh. Listen, we all have a career that has gone as long as his has is bound to have some lulls,
Yeah.
But then
True.
he hits it out of the park with something like the West Side Story remake, which by all accounts, should not have worked because it has still had. Well, we'll save that for when we actually cover one of the West
Yeah.
Side Stories. Actually,
That qualifies, so
It does, and man, I'm glad it qualifies.
let's go.
Yeah, he had a rough few years. He had some good stuff in there. I liked Lincoln. You can't stop me.
ladies and gentlemen, the Terminal.
Ah.
But yeah, boy oh boy.
Going back to a separation, I don't know if it's a never watch it again. It's definitely a I'm gonna need a few years between this.
I need to be in a let the art challenge me mood, and that does not happen often, unfortunately. That is my weakness. That is my problem, not the movie's problem.
I mean, like, I'm often. I will say that it is like there's nothing wrong with wanting wanting art that's like, you know, easier.
Yeah.
I had some friends over like I don't know 2 or 3 weeks ago. Oh god, that was like a month ago. Fuck, what is time?
What is time?
A prolonged scream.
Oof.
Anyway, and like one of these friends, we were standing there. Oh man, that wasn't even that time she visited. Anyway, this friend, we were talking at one point about movies, and they were telling me like, man, I watched this movie in film class, and it was like this Russian movie. It was really long. It was boring. I didn't really follow it. They were walking through the woods for most of it. Then they get to this part where there's like this ball with all these sand dunes in it, and I'm just sitting there going like, "That's Stalker. That's like one of my favorite movies of all time.
I am due for a rewatch on that.
I love Stalker so much, but also like I can't even like it's really boring. Yeah. So like I'm not opposed to like when that's like your taste, that's your taste. Don't be like me. My brain is cooked. I don't even know what I like anymore.
Oh no. I mean, you like lesbians, obviously.
That's true. There are no lesbians in this.
You like sad shit.
I don't like sad shit. Just like a lot of the shit that I like is sad.
You appreciate a good mindfuck.
I do appreciate
Yes.
a good mindfuck. I still need to see the substance.
Yes, you do.
I've heard nothing but good things.
You need to see that report back because I want to hear your take on that.
Yeah, it seems like a very Ellie coded movie. I feel like you and my friend Roxanne have very similar tastes in a weird way. Although she's the one who liked the mummy, but we don't need to get into that.
Ellie, right now there are two movies I am champing at the bit to hear your take on.
Hit me.
Ooh.
It's The Substance and Megalopolis, because holy crap, that's a movie.
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to see it. I've been too busy getting back to the club.
Oh.
Anyway,
If that movie somehow qualifies for this show, that will be my Werner Herzog eats his shoe moment.
I have no idea what's going to be Oscar nominated this year.
It's been a weird year.
It's been a fucking weird year. Katie O'Brien for Love Lies Bleeding.
I only have one prediction at this point, and that's George Miller and Denis Villeneuve are probably going to be divvying up the technicals between them.
Yeah, that just makes sense.
I guess my end point there, before we got horrendously sidetracked as we often do, was that like I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting your main media consumption to be light. Just don't shy away from it when shit gets heavy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
As the director of Parasite said, once you step over the 1 inch barrier of subtitles, you're gonna discover a lot of great movies.
I mean, the subtitles aren't the reason I'm like, here. I love a good foreign film.
Oh yeah.
I think that like one of the things that strikes me about watching foreign films, and I do watch a lot of non-American films, non-English films specifically, is like because America doesn't really invest in the arts anymore, especially not in movies. I'm not ranting about how they use the Watermelon Woman as an excuse to cut funding for the arts right now.
Oof.
Movies by and large in America generally are gonna need to be profit oriented. That doesn't mean that good movies don't get made. My two favorite movies of the year are both American, but they tend to you tend to need a selling point. Whereas I think that a lot of because this was funded by the Iranian government, and it was a huge hit by those standards. I don't know how to convert stuff because one of the things I think you Jazz posted the conversion rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her salary per month was about $7 US.
Whoa.
Shit is fucked.
Shit's fucked, y'all. Iran's like one of those countries that there's Iran as it actually exists, especially actually exists geopolitically, and then there's Iran as it exists in the cultural imagination of uh xenophobic people.
Yeah.
There's this really great political cartoon from like I want to say like 2019 that I go back to a lot, and it's like the new politicians to watch this year, and they're all fucking hysterical. But the one that really strikes me, and I go back to it a lot, is it's like Dan Bloodfeast. Please, let's just nuke. He's like 107 years old. Please, I just want to nuke Iran. I'll do anything. I want to see burning bodies one more time before I die. And then the next descriptor point is respectable bipartisan.
Oh
Oh
god.
God.
And like it's funny because like that's just kind of how America treats the Middle East. How
Mhm.
and it really as someone who like knows enough about the subject to know how badly we fucked over the whole region, but Iran in particular.
Yeah.
Man, it depresses me whenever people talk about those countries that way.
Yeah.
And that's one again, like that's one of the reasons why I feel like this movie is so valuable
Mhm.
because like people people want art about they want art from South America to be all about the drug cartels. They want art from the Middle East to be all about terrorism. They want their cliches validated. They want their pre-existing cultural beliefs validated. And that's not like unique to any one group of people. I want my pre-existing cultural beliefs to be validated. You know, we all do. That's just like something we want.
That's just how people are wired. It's
But there's a big difference between being more comfortable with that sort of thing and only being willing to
yeah.
work with art and media that only validates your worldview. Like, you need to expand. You need to try to learn about the world around you. You need to learn about all of the ways the U.S. screwed over the Middle East. And well, I'm not going to say we deserve everything bad that has happened to us, but you can understand how it got there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a trite phrase, but you can't have cake for every meal.
Mhm.
There's this great essay from Susan Sontag, like the week after 9/11, where she basically says correctly that like yeah, this was horrible, but our refusal to like view it as the result of like the direct causal relationship with American foreign policy choices is actively getting people killed at this point, and it's true.
Yeah.
And like I think that when it comes to Oscar movies about minorities or about people who aren't cis het white men, which looking over the Oscars this year, not a lot of those.
Yeah.
Not a lot of movies about non cis het white people.
Yeah.
Hashtag Oscars so white.
I don't know how to count Albert Nobbs in that. Man, someday we'll talk about the fucking Danish girl.
Oof.
No, I actually think the Danish girl is a perfect example of what I'm going at here. There are going to be movies that are made by people who are within that group and who therefore understand those experiences, and then there's and therefore are if are interested in at least like if not necessarily challenging those belief systems. Like a separation isn't interested in challenging the idea that Middle Easterners can be extremely religious. There is an extremely religious couple in here. It's a huge plot point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like fleshing those ones out and making them understood
Mhm.
or in challenging those cultural beliefs, and then they're the ones that are interested in playing into them, looking at you, the Danish girl. And I just think that, like the former, the movies that are interested in fleshing out or challenging them, are just always going to be infinitely more valuable than I mean I don't know how else than the bad ones.
Like, you're right. Like,
Yeah.
we need art that opens our eyes to people who are different from us. We need to
Mm,
be able to see people as of all walks of life as people.
Yeah.
mhm.
I mean, again, one of the films I've seen this year, it's one Ellie alluded to. It's one where I'll be the first to admit, watching it as the proverbial outsider perspective, it's like, oh no, this actually really, more people need to see this because this will help them understand it.
Mm-hmm. And that one is even we were talking about I Saw the TV Glow there, audience.
Fair enough.
That one is even explicitly about being transgender,
But come on.
but but the metaphor is so blunt it might as well be.
It's one I was like, it's the proverbial, once it's pointed out to you, you can't unsee it. But it's like, again, it's also, it's like, I want people to see this just to understand, like, yeah, no, as an outsider, you can figure out what this is. It's not as complicated as you think it might be.
I do think that like we'll probably talk about this a little bit more if and when we get to the Matrix. She says like she doesn't know, or or like when I Saw the TV Glow inevitably sweeps the Oscars this year, and we get to talk about it then.
That better get some attention, damn it.
I hope so.
I really doubt it.
Most likely not. It was way too early in the year, but we can dream. We can dream.
I'll keep a couple of fingers crossed for good measure.
Academy Award winner Jane Schoenbrunn. That's a fun sentence. Anyway, I don't even remember where I was going with that. But also, like, I think that like not drawing attention to it is kind of what works about I Saw the TV Glow, and it also works because like you can understand things. A lot of times, you can understand things better through metaphor, even fantastical metaphor, than literalism. I think that one of the best movies about racism of the last like 10 years is if you ask me to name my top five, Get Out and I'm Sorry to Bother You would both be in there. I'm Sorry to Bother You
Oh,
probably
yeah.
at number one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's another great movie.
Boots Riley's finally got another one coming out.
We have veered fairly extremely off track. I don't remember what point I was driving. Oh, I think the point I was driving at is that like, and I think that by not being explicitly about like not explicitly intending to cater to Western audiences, just wanting to be a story about people people who happen to be Iranian in the middle of a family crisis. Because you could remake this for in America without having to alter too much, even if I don't think it would be quite as good. Because especially since like if there's anything I learned from the remake of Speak No Evil, American remakes really fuck up their endings, huh?
Looking at you, The Vanishing.
Honestly, it like yes, you could do like the bare bones of this without much change, but at the end of the day, the catalyst for all of this was she is stuck. Like Simon is stuck in a country where she feels she and her daughter cannot thrive. And the only way she's going to be able to escape is by leaving her husband behind. And of course, again, that sets off a chain of events.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, as much as I don't want to blame her for everything bad that has happened, it was kind of the catalyst for everything. And although, like I said, the future conservatives want this sort of scenario might not be so far off. Please vote, everyone.
Yeah.
It's not her fault, but you can see why people stuck in that situation, like say Nader and Terme,
Mm,
are blaming her because it's easy to blame her because it feels emotionally like it's her fault, even though it's not.
yeah, basically. Ugh.
I think you could probably adapt that if you were willing to be extremely self-critical. Like you could push it to like 1950s America. Like
True.
I know that Desert Hearts is primarily about a woman having to live in Nevada for like a month and a half because she needs to establish residency there to get no fault divorce in the 50s.
Yep, that would work. That would work probably.
Or maybe like if you want to include the religious element, maybe like Ireland, in certain time periods.
But also, we would not want to do that.
Yeah.
My end point there is that like you could absolutely adapt it, but I feel like you would be better off stripping it down to its bones and building a new story on top of it because this story
Mhm.
is informed a
Yeah.
lot by Iranian culture, even if it's not obvious. And yeah, any other things I want to go over?
This is definitely the kind of movie that everyone should try to find the spoons to see at least once.
Yeah.
But I would not blame you if that was all you could take.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least make the attempt. That's all I can ask.
Yeah.
I guess my final thought is that I said it wasn't like thrilling or funny in the way that Parasite is, and that's true. But it does have a couple of like individual moments where something happens so suddenly and so shockingly. Like when they get back to the apartment and find the father tied to the bed, like I was like freaking out even this time.
Yeah.
Semi-related, I have to ask, did there even feel like a minor anxiety moment at the scene where I'm blanking the son's name, but he was playing with the father's breathing machine
That little girl.
apparatus?
Yeah, that little girl. Now she's a little girl. Yeah.
Sorry, brain fart. But
Yeah. I was like, no, Naja, watch your kid.
again, first time watching this, I was like, oh god, is he gonna die here? Is this how the turn this is gonna take?
Literal note that I have in my right here. I'm looking at it right now. The little girl fucking with the oxygen is so tense. In a way that made me freak out a little, especially falling with the old man trying to cross the road. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I was kind of amazed he lasted as long as he did into the movie.
Like how much of his deterioration came from that?
Definitely didn't help it.
No.
Probably not. No.
And it's just like again, like showing somebody doing something terrible but also having empathy, because like she's like 5, of course she's not going to know better.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Naja, watch your kid.
Again, like there, you can blame Simon for leaving, but there's also just like the simple fact that like, man, what the fuck is happening here? That this pregnant woman has to go out and work, bringing her daughter with her.
For $7 a month.
And having to juggle her daughter and this increasingly declining old man for, as you mentioned, the $7.
Yep.
And she out and out said from the start, I'm not qualified for this, and he still pushed her into it. And then you wonder why things went so wrong, Nader.
And that's like, this is the couple's main income, so no pressure there.
No pressure there. Rough movie. Rough fucking movie.
Yeah, because what's really brilliant about it is that you could see that no, this is a commentary on society without ever actually speaking a word against it, and I think that's really clever, and it makes it more powerful almost.
It's a tragedy in basically like the truest form, in that no one, it's not like a grand tragedy, no one makes any like insanely wrong decisions, just like everyone gets a little bit too wrapped up in themselves and doesn't think super clearly and makes a decision that is understandable but the wrong one.
Yeah.
And therefore and it's one of those movies where like no one really gets what they want, everybody leaves unhappy.
I mean, it is a tragedy in the literary sense of the word, where it's everyone kind of is the architect of their own misfortune just by the nature of who they are.
Mm-hmm. But it's also, again, a societal tragedy, because
Yeah.
none of these decisions would have been made under better circumstances.
Anybody got anything they want to plug?
God. Well,
Sorry, I just like
it feels. No, go ahead. What would you say?
I was making a joke about how like, man, now I'm done. I'm tired.
God.
I'm gonna go build stuff and drink after this.
Yeah. Well, it feels weird doing my usual plugs after all of that. So I guess at first I'll just say, hey, as of now, Hurricane Milton is just barely leaving Florida. There's definitely a lot of damage. Try to donate to like the Cajun Navy or something if you can. And Free Palestine, obviously, but
Yeah.
I am the host of Indie Retelling, the podcast where we explore all the ways old tales are made new. It's Monster Month 2, The Dead Are Rising. There's a Mummy episode. There's a Lisa Frankenstein episode. Have fun. Have fun after all this.
I'm gonna be on a Van Helsing episode.
Yes, Ellie will be on the Van Helsing episode. So if you like hearing her hot takes, please join us there.
Jazz, I'm gonna ask you a question. I need you to be honest with me. If I edited the audio of Harley Quinn and Polka Dot Man at like arguing about whether or not there was a guy named Milton with them
God.
into the, would you be mad at me? How mad would you be at me?
Ellie, did you see what Callie had written up just in case I lost power? No, I will not. You're not the first person to make that joke.
Who's Milton?
He's been with us the whole time!
I think I would have noticed if a guy named Milton was with us.
Oh god, now I want to watch the Suicide Squad again.
Yeah, go watch the Suicide Squad. That's a fun movie, despite the
Yeah,
title.
that'll make you feel better.
Again, good mood chaser.
Not eligible for this podcast, but the much worse 2016 one is. Live with that information.
Boo!
Go ahead, Todd. Your plugs.
Unfortunately, I don't really have anything right now. The folk horror presentation that I was plugging last time has come and gone with overall decent results, and I got an excuse to plug the criminally underseen The Empty Man, so I was
Nice.
happy with that. Hopefully, by the next time I'm on one of these, I'll have something else to plug. We will see what happens.
Fair enough.
As always, you can find your host on Twitter, Blue Sky, Letterboxd, and Medium at LSR42. You can also find me on Tumblr at Football in Tuxedos with dashes between the words. This podcast can be found on both Spotify and YouTube under the same name. If you're watching us on YouTube, please feel free to give us a like, maybe a comment so I know what I'm doing wrong or right, and mostly so the YouTube algorithm will like us.
And I think I should tell you, audience, that my plugs are pre-recorded because otherwise I feel like my emotions in that recording will seem very at odds with my ones I'm feeling to hear.
Yeah, at least, yeah, just about everybody in this podcast family pre-records their plugs at the end.
Mm-hmm. And that's it for our episode on a separation. Next time, join me as we talk about a movie that I swear to you I did pick out randomly. I did not get it because of what's coming out the week after. We are going to be talking about Thelma and Louise. I hope to see you there.